is a 30-minute sequence, by the way. Please welcome, from Babylon, production designer Florencia Martin. Florencia and I matched today. Yes. We were messaging. I was like, "Are you wearing cream?" She goes, "Yes." And I was like, "Me too." Congratulations on everything, Babylon. Florencia is no stranger to designing LA sets, right? You've done Licorice Pizza, you did Blonde and Babylon and more. Let's start with this clip. This is as I said, it's a 30-minute clip. Yeah. I mean, where do you even begin with that? And working with Damien on what he said.
Oh my goodness, well, Damien had such a specific vision for this film. You know, he had it first all in his head, and then in the script that he wrote, and then the 400-page Bible of images and storyboards that he did of the whole film. And so when we first sat down together, he just wanted to really create something that was explosive and visceral and really immerse the audience into the film and not play it safe. You know, sometimes you look at images from the period and they're staged, much like photos today of an interior design home. And he's like, no, I want it to feel real and authentic. So what we did was for the party, we started to look for locations, and much like this theater, we went into the Ace Theater in downtown Los Angeles that was built in the 1920s and stepped into the foyer. And it was this incredible, intricate, detailed space with 3 levels like Damien had envisioned, and this amazing opportunity to dive the camera into the party and really fill the space with people. And our challenge was then to create this historic theater into a residential ballroom. And so we started to look at all our methods to bring in wood flooring and cover all these entrances with, you know, beautiful doors, and then create a party that evolves. So that was one another wonderful experience of designing that sequence. Was we were working with Justin Hurwitz's score, and that was a really special experience overall in the film, to have the music early in prep and say, you know, listen and walk the space with Damien and Linus various times early in prep and as we were building the set, and study the way that camera movement was going to be, and it was all timed to also Mandy Moore, our choreographer, and working with her in the rehearsal studio for 3 months ahead of time. And so once we got into the space, we, you know, were well rehearsed, and it was amazing to fill that theater with, I think, 500, 600 extras, and everything in camera. You know, and as filmmakers, we couldn't be in the space because the camera was moving 360 throughout, so we were all watching in the balconies, overlooking at all these extras, jumping up and down between scenes too. You know, we had the music playing full volume. And then they would hit rolling, and it was just, you were just there in that party. And then to, you know, as the night evolves, you know, you have Ladyface dance sequence, you have the madness when the elephant comes in, and all the balloons drop, and then at the end, the final disarray of the entire party. So there was a lot of different moments that went into that sequence.
It is one of the best opening sequences in film this year. Talk about, you know, recreating, because the film is set at the, you know, silent era Hollywood as it turns into talkies. So, you know, LA is far from a barren landscape. So how did you find the location to do that, and also build a film studio, Kino Scope, that's fictional?
I mean, it was a huge challenge when you shoot in Los Angeles. You know, we couldn't really travel outside what we call the 30-mile zone, or there's the 60-mile zone, and it does not look like early 1920s. So we were lucky. Right on the other side of San Fernando Valley, there's a stretch of farmland. It's very historical, Piru, Fillmore, and Santa Paula. And that's where we found our location for the silent film studio. And we actually were looking at a lot of horse barns and ranches, and it didn't really fit the scope to what Damien wanted. You look at the photos of Warren Brothers and Universal when they were getting built in Burbank and Toluca Lake, and it was just the hills and, you know, the landscaping. So we were really trying to, you know, honor the research, and we found this ranch and decided that this was the best space that we could really take over, and mapped out, you know, what this studio was by studying a lot of archival photos from Paramount Archival, of what it was like to be on a film studio. And what Damien wanted to evoke was really what the hardships that it was to build this, you know, and so that was what we were trying to do, is create the studio and also create the backstory that it did come from farmland and orange groves. So we built a big barn, and we had our windmill, and then the layering of the film sets and the behind the scenes production. So just that was specifically for early kinescope, but in general, just looking for the locations. You know, we had to scout a lot, and we had to really go through a lot of historical archives. The Department of Water and Power was an incredible resource, and really look at homes that hadn't been heavily renovated, and also homes that allowed us to have a really big landscape out into these barren exteriors that we wanted to tie the audience back to always and remind them. We're in early Los Angeles, we're not in the Hollywood Hills. So, you know, we were very fortunate to find locations for the Wallach's exterior outside of Lancaster. That was this big rock castle that was built in the 1920s, and it allowed the camera to come, you know, out from the party and stitch it together to that location and come out into the barren desert. And then also for Jack Conrad's house, that was in Simi Valley. And, you know, we chose that because it was just surrounded by the Santa Susana Mountains, and you really could feel that early, you know, the early pioneers and these dreams that they were building.
I love when Margot Robbie first enters the Kino studios, and you see all the different sets. Like, talk about like the conversations that you had with Damien about the different types of movies that you were going to have going on in the background on those different sets.
So that was, you know, Damien loves film, and he's a film historian, and so in that sequence where he wanted to really create these jewel boxes, we call them, because we had the desert landscape, and then we had all these worlds that they were creating. So there's the jungle set and the cook, and this pink backdrop that we had hand painted of this Asian backdrop, and then going into this Wild West, you know, bar that is Nellie's film set. So what we wanted it was to feel rough and lived in, and they weren't shooting with sound. So there's amazing anecdotes of people stealing actors from one set to another and running around and taking down a set and building a new one. So we wanted that kinetic energy. We wanted it to feel like it'd been there for a long time, but it was also timed to music and very specific camera movements. So, you know, we started by marking and Damien shooting with his phone, you know, all of the tempos and building an animatic and building a shot list from there. And then really looking at the size of the sets. You know, we're shooting anamorphic, and in the silent era, the sets were really high, in order to capture the 4:3 that they were shooting. But for us, we wanted to show the set and also the construct of the set and the world around them. So we really paid a lot of detail, first in a white model and then a digital model, and then shooting it with Damien as the sets evolved. We would come back and location and really map out the sequence, make sure that the timing was correct, and also that we were seeing what we wanted to get in the frame. So it was amazing. A lot of layers.
How many sets did you have to build for this film?
I think we had over 120 individual sets. And we had about 73 days of shooting. So we had multiple sets on days, and I have to, you know, for my team and also the film crew, like how much we moved, you know, from one, we'd be in Pomona, then Pasadena, then, and very different themes and tones in each set. So there was a lot, and then we got to build both a silent film studio and then a sound, so.
Incredible. Florencia, congratulations.
Thank you.
Stay put. We'll see you at the end for the panel conversation. And now I'm going to bring up a clip from Top Gun Maverick.